And Brandon Morton is he's a sports fan, but he's not somebody who's an active. So he doesn't go to a ton of games, our producer. They went to, I think it was Whalen's last game.
Yeah.
And Nick doesn't live here. He lives elsewhere, and he was here they had brought his daughter.
Okay.
And they were sitting there, and I walked up to see him at halftime. They said, this is the best atmosphere I've ever been to.
Very cool. Yeah.
And listen, you don't have dragons spouting fire like the Vikings, but I think if people go to your games, they will, just the same as me. I didn't cover the Lynx until Whalen got to town, and then you guys became good, and then I started coming because you were good.
Right.
Then once I started coming, I was like, oh, this is actually really worth the time.
Right. And we get so much of that, and why. It's like I said, that constant struggle of trying to prove, that we're worth, coming to watch. But it's just, as we move the needle, so to speak, guys like yourself, that, like you said, it's worthwhile. We change the narrative, and I think that's the biggest thing is we change the narrative. We keep talking about it. I have not had anybody that I've invited to a game that said, no thanks, I just didn't enjoy it. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
And I'm thankful for the fan base that we have here because it's the environment that they create. Mm-hmm. There are other teams that you might go and they have 6,000 people, but it's not the same environment that we create here. And so I'm very thankful for that.
Let's talk about Shelly Bean real quickly. Then a couple of Twitter questions that'll get us to talking about Rebekkah Brunson and Whalen and Marney Gellner doing broadcasts. I do want to tell you that girls' participation in sports and fitness is exploding, but the toys they play with and the books they read don't represent that. As you know, in the U.S., less than 1% of children's picture books published annually have a female character who is physically active. Shelly Bean the Sports Queen book series is changing that one book at a time and makes the perfect holiday gift for the child in your life or for whatever holiday. Follow along in each book as Shelly Bean the Sports Queen learns a new sport. It's not easy for her, but she never gives up. And to reward herself at the end of each story, she makes a new sports charm for her crown, proud of what she's accomplished. Then you can use the tips at the end of each book to learn how to shoot a basketball or ice skate yourself. You meet her best friend Maya and her buddies Parisa and Mason, and don't forget Shelly Bean's trusty little dog Spike. To purchase your copies, go to ShellyBeanTheSportsQueen.com, enter promo code LinksCoachReeve at checkout, and you'll save 15% off the cover price. Check out the new 5-pack, the Shelly Bean poster, become a member of the fan club, and much more. And we do appreciate Shelly, her work and her sponsorship of this program. A couple of good Twitter questions, one from Nathan Hansen. Going to my 4th year as a Lynx season ticket holder, I feel like there's still a ton I don't know about how the game is played. Apparently my 1 year of playing in elementary school wasn't enough to make me an expert. Any recommendations of where to go to learn more? I'd
say just keep watching. It's repetition. I think that you can learn a lot by in watching a game that I think most analysts do a really good job of, whether it's breaking a play down, a reason why something's working, or why a team is employing a certain strategy. So I think just continuing to watch and listen, whether it's women's games, men's games, doesn't matter. Basketball's basketball, as they say. And so right now there's obviously, being able to, go over to the Gophers and watch the Gopher women play. I don't know that, from a strategy standpoint, I don't know that the analysts are ever able to say in detail what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're doing it. But I think what I have found, just an overall, like when I watch and I go, oh, they're running, a mid-pick to a swing to this, to that. That's not how Nathan's going to see the game.
Right.
It's going to be more of what I would say from a fan perspective. You're not going to know why they're running a certain play. You might go, hey, so-and-so's guarding Simone, let's get her the ball. And so, you don't necessarily care strategy-wise how they get her the ball. Just get her the darn ball so Simone can attack that matchup. So I think understanding those basics, that's pretty easy to do just by, just the same thing we tell our player, repetition.
Right. Our friend MJ asked thoughts on Rebekkah Brunson's contributions to the Wolves broadcast. Same question with Marney Gellner, doing play-by-play for a recent game. What type of prep processes do they have to do in the offseason and always on actually, I think that's a separate question. So let's talk about Marney and Rebekkah joining the FSN broadcast team. They're obviously very good at what they do, and I thought brought a lot to the broadcast.
Yeah, of course, our friend Marney, that was no surprise that she knocked it out of the park. Seemed comfortable, happy. When you get to see Marney's personality, that's a great thing for us. And
she was another person who came to the the Dot Square Kitchen charitable event, and she was hilarious when she got it there.
And I like that our fans got to see that side of her,
Yes.
because that's who she is.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you're, you got the camera rolling and you're trying to spew statistics and that sort of thing, but you don't get to see maybe the full, and that's Marney. And so those of us that have had a chance to be around Marney, we enjoyed the opportunity she got with the Wolves, and she did a great job. And same thing with Rebekkah. When our season ended, Rebekkah was asked to go do ESPN in studio for the WNBA playoffs, and so that was her first crack at being in front of the camera. So I'm glad she got that experience, even though it was a short period of time. At least you did it, you know what it felt like, and so I think that helped her for preparing for this experience. Rebekkah never has a hard time kind of succinctly, like looking at something and being able to put words on it. And so I'm not surprised at all that she would be good in there. I think that when you have two people, so you have Jim and you have Dave, I think the hardest thing is figuring out where's your place. And, you feel like, you're watching the game, you have a lot to say. I know I do. Every time I watch a game, that I could be like a running commentary. Same thing for Jim. I know that for sure. So you try to figure out how do you share your space? How long do you talk for? So I've done it. I've done color commentary, and it's not as easy as you would think. You don't just, put a headphone on and start talking. There's a lot that goes on. You have people in your ear, talking in your ear while you're talking. That was always a difficult thing for me.
It takes a while to get used to.
It makes me stop talking when I hear someone talking in my ear. So, I'm happy for Rebekkah to get that opportunity. I think she adds a lot to the broadcast.
MJ also asked, she asked a question about off-season preparation. We'll defer on that one. She also said, I'm fuming about the Tolliver pay disparity for NBA rules story.
Yeah, and I understand that. And I think that's one that, maybe doesn't necessarily fit the pay disparity piece, the narrative, because I think it really came from not because the Wizards didn't want to pay her, the value of the assistant coach in that position. It was because of a WNBA situation where playing for the same organization, it can be viewed as circumventing the salary cap. And so it's the league's job to police those situations. And unfortunately for Christie, it was viewed that, it kind of created an unfair situation.
Absolutely. We have a lot of things we could still get to. I think I'm going to save some of our topics for more highlighted roles in future shows. So I'll come to Cheryl for a final thought here. Do want to thank Shelly being the sports queen and successfulmarketinggroup.com. Remember the promo codes. Again, if you want to advertise with this program or the network, you can reach us at talknorthpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again to Brandon. And again, remember to download. Any final thoughts?
Well, more just kind of sharing, I think, with our listeners what's going on right now in the WNBA from a time period standpoint. We've entered into free agency officially. January 1, 2019 starts kind of our new quote fiscal year. So we've kind of turned over the salary cap, and we are now in the process between now and January 14th. Sending qualifying offers to retain rights of players. We have some unrestricted free agents that don't require paperwork, that we'll get to those on January 15th when we can begin talking and negotiating with them. And so the next few weeks, there's going to be a lot of jockeying for position in kind of the contract mode that we're in right now, and then the negotiation mode, which begins January 15th. So stay tuned. Wish us the best. Give us all kinds of good vibes. And hopefully we can have a great offseason in terms of building our roster.
Thanks to Alexis Jones. We also have some very intriguing guests coming up for the rest of this month. We'll be doing our next show late next week, so follow us on Twitter and kind of be alert to that. You can also subscribe at iTunes, your favorite podcast app, to talknorth.com and get all the shows. We do appreciate it. Thanks to Cheryl. Thanks to Alexis Jones, and we will talk to you soon.